And clap sync. This is Markiplier Power Wash Podcast Power Hour with pals.
That sounds great.
Went through 4 or 5 different iterations of the title.
Oh, it's still going. It's still to this day. There was another name that should have been named that I've forgotten now. It was so genius, and now it's gone. So it's completely out of the realm of possibility.
Washed away.
Washed away. Welcome to the Power Wash Pals Power Hour. There was another name, and I've forgotten it now, and I can't remember what it should be, but there was an even better name, and it's...
It fits with the game, actually, because it's the first couple levels. It's all the repeating joke of they can't decide what to name their company.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, so you're actually on theme.
I don't pay attention to any of this shit. How do you ever know this?
It's my job. It's my job to pay too much attention to this stuff.
Yeah. Did you do a video on this game? Because I was always talking like this. Seems like there's something sinister going on in the background.
Not only did I do a video about this game, I dedicated it to you, Mark. So I'm glad that my content fell on deaf ears.
I've been watching your food theory stuff. I haven't actually been watching too much game theory.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. You've been watching enough to dunk on my sexualized Pokemon.
I know, right? Yeah, man. We can get into that, but
sure.
I wanted to start this off before we even get going. Are you a good power washer? I see your snubby little tiny baby washer there.
I haven't upgraded my devices all that much, but I'm a diligent power washer. It's not the tools. I don't have many tools, but I use them well. Let's say that.
I will tell you, it is actually 100% the tools in this game.
Oh no, really?
100%, especially on this level. If you don't have a range extender, you're gonna have a real bad time.
Oh man. Well, you know what? It'll be a good time because I'm spending it with you, Mark.
All right. Okay. I'm just gonna count on me having to do anything. If you open your tablet, how much money you got?
Okay. Let's see. We've got. How do I open the tablet again?
Escape,
it's been a while.
I think Escape will get you.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I've got $437. I've been saving. I've been saving that to invest in like an IRA or something.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't do that. You're never going to make any money with that. But it's okay. You got that. I've got mine. I haven't even upgraded to the best one because I think that the one I have is okay. So what we'll divide this. You go up the stairs and take like the close short range stuff, and I'll work on like the things that need like long range, and that way we'll.
Okay, I am a very diligent jumper. I did not skip leg day.
You said that, yeah. But the diligence, it's good. Just use the ladders and whatnot. There's many scaffolds here of varying size. You can use any.
Okay, great. Right. Sounds like a plan.
So usually I have not done this in the past, and I should do this. Is I should introduce my guests as who they are. This is Matthew Patrick, one of the most prolific and I say this with all the love in the world because I am the same way. Memeable internet personalities in the world.
I am a walking meme. Without even before memes were like relevant online.
Yeah, I know. And I say that because I am also a uniquely memeable YouTuber apparently. But I see just as many MadPat memes, game theorist memes. I forget who did it, but there was someone that was doing videos that was like they stole your voice and like put it into an AI generator. I was talking about how people get no bitches and just like stop loop of that.
Yeah. It's great, man. I almost hired that guy. I'm like, hey, do you want to just do the videos for me at this point, please? Just go for it.
They were so watchable. It was really good.
I'm like, this is better than the stuff I produce. Go for it, man. Yeah. There's also a creator on TikTok who does MatPat impressions. Talking about who the purple guy is and this and that. And I'm like, hey, you got the voice down, man. Just sit in the booth, read the script, and you're golden.
Yeah, you got life to live. You got to go on with that.
Right.
But I will say you have been on YouTube for quite a while, and you have and this is kind of an oddity for people that have been doing it as long as you or I have, is that you have kind of stayed in the public eye for a very long time. I don't really care about the how and why and the like, ooh, what's your strategy? I'm just like, how have you stayed sane this whole time? To be able to make content and like deal with drama and whatever and shit happening. I don't even know what happened with the most recent thing in Five Nights at Freddy's. It went over my head, but I saw you made an apology video. I didn't watch it, unfortunately. Again, only food theory.
I was gonna say, hey, I appreciate you watching food theory. That channel monetizes well, so thank you for the higher CPMs over there.
That's what it's all about, baby. That's what it's all about.
No, I mean, but you bring up food theory and I think that really answers your question in a lot of ways, where for me, the content is always evolving, the landscape is always shifting, and the great thing about having food theory now is it's a completely new category of topics to talk about. It's a completely different style of video. And so part of my life is, now that I have 3 different channels that cover completely different topics, I'm able to, if something isn't really particularly exciting or interesting over in the gaming space, you have the film space. Hopefully something's interesting happening there. There's like a cool small YouTube series or something like that. Or if that starts to get boring, food theory opens up a whole new wealth of possibilities to talk and theorize about, and new videos to do. So really the shucking and jiving with kind of the content trends and things like that, like that's a whole other story, and surviving controversies and whatever. Like that's a whole separate thing. But when it comes to just purely like staying sane on the platform while doing, 10 years, 11 years worth of content now, it's like, that's the way to stay sane, is just, and I think you would largely attest to that too, right? With, your ARG projects, your, In Space with Markiplier, the YouTube originals, things like that. Like, it allows you to kind of express different parts of your creative personality and continue to learn, even though you've been doing it for as long as you have.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And I think people that have seen my content evolve over time would agree as well. But maybe in a slightly different way, because for me, it's less about staying sane and worrying about like things to talk about, because me and Ethan, we joked about this with Unis Honest, is like, you could put a banana on the table and we would make a 10-minute video out of it.
Right.
With no prompt at all. It's like, so the fun of creation, I always go back to that old FNAF adage, the joy of creation, I really do truly thrive on the making of things and like the bouncing of ideas back and forth of people, which is why I always loved what you did with some of those videos talking about it. I remember this very distinctly. It was one of the first times you made a video, I think, about Darkiplier. I don't really remember what the video was. I just remember that it happened because I was up in Seattle. And I remember I saw on my phone, me and Amy, we were walking down by the shore front store place down there, and
that my favorite,
the favorite Seattle spot,
storefront shore place. Yeah, it's great.
And I saw on my phone that you had posted a video that was like completely dedicated to something I made, and it was an incredibly heartwarming thing. I stopped and I literally had to sit down and watch the video right away. Mostly because I was like, what horrible things is it saying about me? Because that was usually the adage of when someone makes a video about you on the internet, it's not a good thing. Like, that's usually very bad.
Right. When you're trending, you're like, oh no, my stomach sinks down into my chest.
Yeah, everyone, like every time I'm trending on Twitter, everyone's like, what did he do? And it's like, oh, okay, he pooped. Yeah.
I was going to say, usually it's your bowels have moved in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember I sat down and I watched it and I looked at him and I was like, this is one of the coolest things anyone's ever done for me.
Oh.
And I know that like it probably wasn't entirely motivated to be sweet, but I do think a lot of it was just like an appreciation for someone else's creation on the platform and a recognition of that. And being able to turn it into content is an even bigger bonus. And I think that like that was a really nice thing. And I just got to thank you for that.
Oh, of course. I mean, thank you for, not to get too like self-congratulatory around this stuff, but like, no, thank you for, creating stuff that is fun and interesting and exciting. And I think, again, to the question of staying sane so many years into this, it's awesome to see that the most viewed videos on Film Theory at this point are me covering YouTube first series by small creator channels. We're covering the Backrooms a lot these days. We're covering the Mandela Catalog. These digital first productions that are being produced by independent YouTubers doing it in on their own with small teams. And like that is so exciting to me. And I think that's been one of the coolest parts of my evolution as a creator is, being able to have a platform now and being able to in some way pay it forward and put a spotlight onto people who are doing awesome, cool stuff and who deserve credit and who are pushing the limits of what it takes to tell a story in 2022.
That's a really good way of putting it, because it is kind of paying it forward, right? We as creators, we're old men by now, you and I.
Yes.
How old are you? I'm sorry, I know we're close in age, but just like remind me.
Oh my gosh, I can't say it on camera,
Can't say
can
it
I?
on camera?
No, what am I? I'm 35-ish, somewhere around
35?
there.
Yeah.
I'm up there. I'm up there, Mark.
I just turned
I'm the
33.
Grant Pro of YouTube. Yeah.
In the terms of YouTube, we're ancient dust. We're practically falling apart at this.
I mean, we're no Rhett and Link, but we're getting close.
How old are they? I know they're older. I always forget.
What are they at this? I mean, they're over 40. I think they're 40, early 40s. I think at this point.
Yeah, early 40s.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not
Yeah.
too. They're not dust in the wind yet, but
No,
they're starting to
certainly not.
crumble. Yeah.
Sure.
But no, I think about that a lot in terms of like content creation. I have come very far in terms of my ability to make content, and I'm still to this day trying to push myself and my ability and my knowledge. And of course, I have all these projects that I'm currently working on. Just last week, I wrote like 100 pages of script on 2 separate projects that like I can't wait to get on because I love it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm trying to remember that the reason that I make things is not just for myself. It is a lot for myself and it's selfish. But the other part of it is to hopefully inspire someone else to make something, and that they can see in themselves that they have the ability to create. And this individualized, like, people going out and making the backrooms. That guy who makes those videos, the ones that are the most popular, I think, is like...
Yeah, Kane.
He's 17 or something, right?
Yeah, he's super young. Yep.
He's just a kid. By all measures, he's a kid.
Yep, he is a VFX artist who is just really good. As far as I can tell, he enjoyed the SCP back when Backrooms was a thing, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna make my version of the story, and I'm gonna show the world what I can do." And lo and behold, now he's one of the biggest trends in horror on YouTube, and one of the biggest trends in general on the platform. It's awesome. It's so exciting, and when I get a notification of him uploading, I cannot wait to watch that video.
Yeah, that's so cool. I still have yet to see any of them. I plan on doing a Backrooms style video in the very near future. Just haven't had time because I'm going to going to Korea to film a documentary next week.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, about my mom. So it's going to be a nice
wonderful.
personal story. And I just get so behind on things. But I do remember, like, all this is for the next generation. Like, at some point, my channel will fall. I've practically been trying to get it taken down at this point. But I'll move on to something else, and I'll make things. Like, I have plans to make movies and, TV shows and whatnot. But I don't think like that. I'm not doing that because I want to, like, break into the traditional media sphere. It's just like, I want to try something new, and, like, I want to see if I can make it in a movie. And all this selfish, like, talk besides, I know you got plans, and I'll ask about your plans. But just on the same topic, do you worry about new creators these days and the speed at which trends can rise and fall? Because that is the biggest drawback, and the biggest thing that I worry about for people is that the rises. I talked about this on several different topics and podcasts with other YouTubers, but the rise with like new creators these days is meteoric. It goes higher than ever before, faster than ever before, but it also falls faster than ever before. And the I've seen the psychological ramifications of that on creators over our entire time period. Can be devastating. Do you worry for creators today hitting those peaks and valleys?
I think it's one of those things where honestly, I think it's on a case-by-case basis, right? I think it depends on what the creator is popping into this world for, and what their expectations are. I think we're simultaneously dealing with younger and like you said, faster trends and younger creators and things like that. But also these are people who have grown up with these platforms and have seen trends rise and fall and, hopefully are familiar with it. And so I think, a lot of people, and I would hope that they're going in with a healthy mentality of like, hey, it's awesome that this took off. And this is my 15 minutes of fame, and let's see what I can do with it. I think more so what I worry about is just the fact that it affects storytelling. The need to this need to constantly tell stories faster and have more in it and supercut things and this and that. Like you lose a lot of the ability to tell slower paced stories, pensive stories. I think that's, to me, the more concerning thing is we as a viewership, as an audience, as people who watch online videos, things like that, like the pace at which stuff gets produced and has to be kind of produced in order to like maintain people's attention. I think that's what concerns me more.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, because a lot of people that I talk to in traditional media spheres, you know, my manager, my agency, yada, yada, the people that do all the caring about things that I don't care about, they talk about this a lot with how TikTok is like shortening attention spans. But I don't think that's it. I don't think it's that attention spans are getting shorter. It's the demands of the consumption that are driving these shorter time frames. TikTok works because, you know, Vine worked, and there is a demand in a market for short content. But it's not like YouTube is suffering. The longer form videos on YouTube are getting longer. It's like I've sit around and watched 3-hour videos about roller coasters from what's the channel? Defunctland. You know, I'll watch.
Love Defunctland.
Love Defunctland.
So
and
good.
I'll browse through TikToks and watch like 6-second things. But it's the speed at which the internet is demanding new content that is kind of affecting the way stories are delivered, and how much can be physically put into something by one person is starting to really be stretched out. Even I, as a creator, I am extremely good at what I do. I can make pretty much anything out of anything. I am blown away at which the speed of some of these people are making things. I know what they're doing to get there. They're pulling all-nighters, the demands of it. And this is why I'm like, the worry gets to me sometimes. As much as I think the newer generations of creators are more cognizant of mental health deficiencies in terms of like burnout and whatnot. They're aware of it, but being aware of something is one thing, and experiencing like an ever-increasing demand is another. It's like nothing can prepare you for that, so...
Well, and I think that's definitely a different concern, right? Is the, like you said, the speed at which things have to get produced. And, you know, a channel like Game Theory could never have happened in 2022 YouTube at this point. You know, by the nature of, we have a significant team. You know, at this point, I am fortunate to be surrounded by so many creative people who, you know, trust in me to lead the ship, but, you know, who I am just stunned by some of the work that they're able to do in the timelines that we're able to do it. And it's, you know, and they always want to push themselves further, and they always want to do better and all of that. But, you know, to still get out a video a week on Game Theory, or 3 main channel theory videos a week, it is such a difficult load to burden, and we wouldn't be able to do it without, you know, this huge collaborative process that we have. Back in the day, I was able to get away with, you know, MatPat doing his 1 video a month solo. But now, to stay relevant and maintain what the platform needs and demands, you're just this constant churn.
Yeah, and what you're trying to say is like a new creator could not possibly do that as it is right now, because starting it and getting to that level of doing regular videos it costs too much money, and it costs too much time in terms of man hours or woman hours or however many hours you want to talk about. It's too much.
It's even if you get that one good video out, you are then immediately rolling into the next thing. And by the time you're doing it as a solo creator, unless you are, you know, killing yourself or some sort of prodigy or whatever, like you're already kind of, the algorithm is moved on past you.
Yeah, you don't even get to track your own growth, because I would love to like have a conversation with people that make like the backroom stuff and all these new creators, because I would love to know what their process is. But given that eternal churn and like the constantly increasing demands, you don't even get to step back and say, oh wow, I've really progressed as a creator of things. My skills have built, because as soon as the numbers start going down, you're like, I'm crap, I'm shit, I'm terrible. Oh God, it's over, and all the skills that I've built are worthless because I can't even appreciate them. I'm not saying that's the right mindset, and it's not even the mindset I approach things anymore anyway. But it's just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I could totally see how people could get wrapped up inward.
Sure. Well, I want to go back to your love of Defunctland, because I don't think I've ever heard you talk about this, but are you much of a roller coaster enthusiast, Mark?
No. I mean, yeah, I love a good roller coaster, but I just like watching YouTube videos casually. That's my go-to method of consumption. I don't really watch TV shows. I don't have time to sit down and get into a show. Say for maybe Alone. I've watched, me and Amy, we watch Alone sometimes. But for the most part, we're just popping on YouTube videos. We're just watching any random stuff that comes across the recommendeds, you know?
Sure.
And so when it comes down to like watching things, what little time I have is just YouTube videos or TikTok sometimes. I've kind of like increased my amount of TikToks lately.
Oh man, they're getting you to increase the amount of TikToks. They know what they're doing.
Oh man, that For You page algorithm, that thing is it's scary good. I know they must be probing into my personal information. Like I think we all know that, but goddamn, those recommendeds really come up spicy.
Yeah, no, right? It's really a smart algorithm. Speaking of, have you ever taken like the Myers-Briggs personality test? Or anything like that kind of like quantifies what your personality is? Because I know that these algorithms really, like you said, they really pinpoint who you are and what you like to watch. And so I'm curious, have you ever done something like that?
Is that the 4-letter?
Yeah, that's the 4-letter one. Yeah.
Well, I'd have to alt-tab. Oh, I've done a video on it. I don't remember what the answer was, but I can look it up and tell you.
Well, how long was the video? Because I know mine has changed with time, right? So it's one of those things that we ask a lot of the people who come onto Team Theorist to take, just because it tells us a lot about who they are, how they work, and how we can best work with that person. So we can really succeed together. And I've found it to be really helpful. And so I was just curious because I'd be curious to see what your results were. According
to this weird internet site, it says ENFP, but I don't think that I'm that. ENFP, is that what I took? I have no idea.
Let's see.
There's also
extrovert feeler, that makes sense. EN, you're an intuitor, so that means you're looking at data and extrapolating to move forward. I could see that in your personality. And then P, I would be surprised. On one hand, I could see you as a P, but on the other hand, I'd be surprised if you were just by the nature of how busy your schedule is.
ENTPA is what I got when I took the test. ENTPA, which is debater. I don't know.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
I don't put any stock into any of that bullshit. But what are you?
I am an ENTJ, and I actually split a couple. Because I'm ENTJ, which is thinker, extrovert. The N is the intuitor, so you're looking at data and kind of extrapolating outward. And then J is you have to be a planner, or you're kind of you prefer things organized rather than like, let's just go by the seat of our pants kind of thing.
I love seat of your pants. Man, I love it.
Yeah, you like the seat of my pants, Mark?
Oh, I love the seat of your pants. It's so incredible.
It's good right now. It's a little bit sweaty. I'm on a leather couch. It's not great. Beautiful. I hate to tell you about that one. I've always enjoyed that just because, I'm a psychology nerd. I studied psychology and neuroscience and stuff. So I find it useful. But at the end of the day, like, I see why people don't, because it's like, oh, you're just answering the questions that the test gives you and you're feeding it back what you want to hear. And it's true, but like hearing it in a different context or kind of rephrased back at you sometimes gives you clarity, I think.
Yeah, self-understanding I'm big about. I'm all about like trying to be in tune with who you are and like get a deeper understanding of the self. But at the same time, I always shy away from those things because I do think it's easy answers instead of like actually looking in and discovering yourself. It's one of those things where the only time you really know yourself is in the most dire of situations. When you are at the extremes of your personality, do you really even understand who you are and what you're willing to do and what you're even capable of as you're doing it? And I think those moments can't be quantified in an online quiz. But at the same time, like if it helps someone come to understanding, I got no problem with it.
Sure, no, of course. Yeah. This was always one of my getting to know you questions. I've never gotten a chance to truly, get to know you outside of projects, Mark. So I'm curious, like if you were represented as a muffin flavor, so if your personality were represented by a muffin flavor, not a muffin flavor that you necessarily like to eat, because that's always like, oh, I like blueberry. And it's like, no, if your personality were distilled into the essence of a muffin flavor, what muffin would you be, Mark?
Man, does it have to be a muffin flavor that exists?
No, it can be whatever muffin, whatever combination of flavors you think is the essence of Mark.
Right. Okay. So if it was going to be me, it's not going to be something that is always pleasant. So sure. It's got to have some spice to it. It's either like a spice or way too much cinnamon or something like that. It's got some spice to it. But there's got probably some like a spicy chocolate muffin. I would probably put it like that.
Cinnamon chocolate.
Yeah. No, not even cinnamon. let's get the cinnamon out of there, but let's get some actual, like, there's capsaicin in this muffin. It is actually spicy.
Yeah, like a chili muffin, like a
Yeah.
hot chili muffin.
A hot chocolate muffin. But
Yeah.
not hot chocolate, but like spicy chocolate muffin. That's
Cool.
me.
Like a spicy Mexican chocolate, right?
Yeah, just like that.
Nice.
Okay. And how does that reveal someone? Because you're right. We've never actually sat down and talked as just two humans talking. It's almost always been about a project or work.
Right. It's either a project or it's on camera or it's, I think the closest we came was after both Heist and In Space, but that was also surrounded by a bunch of people, and that's always a very different context as well.
Yeah, it always is. So what type of muffin are you?
Actually, it was funny when you started to talk about cinnamon muffins because for years I've always said I'm a cinnamon muffin.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's like, "That's not a muffin." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." But a little bit spicy, a little bit sweet, a little bit intense. A lot of people will like you, but there are going to be people who really don't like your flavor. So love it or leave it, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like a polarizing muffin choice, but people seem to constantly go back to it for some reason.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm a muffin with a fist in it, and it reaches out and it punches you in the teeth every time you go to bite it. But then somehow you just keep going back. Almost like, I think, actually, I'll take it back. It's like cinnamon, chocolate, spice, a fist, and let's say cocaine. There's just like something to get people addicted, and they come back for more. That's my muffin. I'm the spicy chocolate drug muffin.
The elusive cocaine muffin. Wow. Oh man. Well, if you wanted to get this video demonetized, it just happened now. So there it is, one step closer to getting kicked off the YouTube platform.
Demonetization is not getting kicked off. So many of my videos are demonetized. The thing is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, I know there's a whole thing about like age restriction and stuff like that. And yes, it's bullshit. Ethan just got his 10-year anniversary video age restricted. No clue why. The most absurd thing I've ever heard. It's just like baffling. But at the same time, like, usually when it comes down to those things, I've never talked about it, and I never even fight it because I just don't really care. I'm in a fortunate enough position, and I know this is fortunate for me to say, is just like, if a few videos get age restricted or even half of mine, I'm still gonna be fine. I'm still gonna make things, and I try not to like change my content for the sake of YouTube's guidance. Because being monetized is one thing. If my video gets removed, that's a problem. But usually I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is, and I'll just deal with it. But at the same time, you seem to be like very mindful of food theories better monetized. Age restriction is something to be aware of. Cursing is obviously something to control. Do you think about that a lot, like in terms of the videos you make?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm an uber nerd and I overthink everything, right? Like, that is just who I am. But it really is born back to the earliest days of the channel, right? Where, again, going back to the idea of like, how could game theory exist in 2022 if I was just starting off from scratch? It would be incredibly difficult because it would take 100 hours to produce a single video. Between all the research that goes in, all the scripting, all the animation, whatever you wanted to call what I was doing in the early days. But it took a long time for me as someone who wasn't skilled in a lot of that stuff. And so very early on in my career as a content creator, I guess you could say, before I even realized that that's what I was going to be, it was, how do I squeeze every last view or every, how do I make this video work as successfully as possible with the platforms that it's going on, so that way my effort wasn't wasted, and the next thing that I move on to, it buys me enough time for the next video, honestly. And so that's when I really got involved in the analytics, and my background is with neuroscience and theater. And so really those two specialties are a really nice balance of the creative half of what the platform is, as well as the analytical half. It's a creative platform that's built by engineers, and where content is measured by numbers. And so for me, I got really invested in the early days about like, okay, well, what can I do to experiment and find new things to boost the retention time a little bit, or get people to engage a little bit more and this and that. And it's fun, but it empowered me, and it taught me a lot about how the platform works and this and that. And I try to pass it on to other people at this point. But yeah, from the early days when you're only uploading a video a week and it's taking a lot of time and manpower and stuff, that's kind of where I found it.
Man, I don't spend any brain power thinking about that stuff, man. I really don't. Sometimes I do, but really I don't. It always fascinates me because I think you are in an interesting crossroads, not a crossroads, that sounds confrontational. It's like an intersection of specific talents, because it is that neuroscience and theater background. I've always said that you have a great performative personality. You are good on camera, you're good at improvising, and you're good at like the actual performative aspect. There are many YouTubers and many other people that are trying to make careers on the internet that are not. I'm not calling anybody out specifically about this. You all know who they are. They literally were not built for performance, and that's okay. Some people are not. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that try to brute force it with just that technical aspect. But I think what makes your content and your longevity really stand out is that you are able to do both, and you really, really do think well in terms of both what is entertaining and what is like at the right. What's the big? It's in all the tech spheres. That's the one word, the zeitgeist. The
zeitgeist.
I hate that word so much. Just like I really hate the word. It's like whenever someone calls like someone else, he's a savant. Oh, he's a savant at this. He's a genius. I hate these terms, but really, I do think that you kind of like always tune into what is topical and somehow make it entertaining, which I think is a unique set of talents.
Well, shucks, thanks. I mean, it's always I always think that I want to learn, right? Like the impetus of the channels for me was an opportunity for me to teach myself something new, and to have an excuse while I was looking for jobs and no one really wanted to hire me, to have an excuse to show them like, hey, I can do things, I can do smart things, but also just to keep my brain active. And the cool thing about YouTube, and the frustrating thing about YouTube, is that it's always changing, and the content is always changing, the audience is always changing, YouTube themselves and the policies that it adheres to and what it's advertising and stuff, like it's always changing. So on one hand, it would be one thing to say like, oh yeah, I've been a YouTuber for 10, 11 years and I'm getting bored with it or whatever. But on the other hand, it's like, no, it's one of those jobs that is constantly forcing me to find different ways to evolve as a creator and different things to expose myself to. And how do I grow up on this platform as a creator, as a viewer, as someone who's in this space.
Mm-hmm. And that's what not a lot of people realize, is that you do need to grow up with it. I talk about this a lot, in terms of drawing from this well of inspiration that you have inside of yourself. And eventually you'll run dry. No matter what you do, you'll run dry eventually. And it's just a thing where you got to go live more life and come back to it. And learning and growing up with your audience is part of it. My audience has grown up with me. I've found more people on the way, but I think people who watch these creators online for a long period of time, if they don't change, if they do not evolve as a person, as much people are like, you've changed, I'm this old MatPat, shit like that. If they don't see change, then it's weird. It falls into this uncanny valley where it's like they're not human. They've stayed the same. They've stagnated. It's not what real life is. People change all the time. Their tastes change. My videos have drastically changed in terms of my performative ability, technical ability, but also just like because I've changed. I'm different. But at the same time, I have a question for you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes.
YouTube dies tomorrow. What do you do?
Ooh, YouTube dies tomorrow. What do I do? Mm-hmm. You know what? I would either just retire. I'm in a fortunate enough position where I could retire and it would be okay. But I think more so, and I think what I would do then is I would just pick up projects to help, I guess my go-to answer is usually like, oh, I would apply to YouTube. Like if the channel died, I would apply to YouTube and try to kind of like serve as an internal voice of someone who's been on the platform for a long time, who represents creator interests and who can like speak to a lot of different facets of what it means to be a content creator in the digital space. But if YouTube itself died, I mean, like you said, I've changed and I've grown. I have a family now. I have a kid, and I'm so excited to teach him everything about the world. And so, I've for the last 10 years been teaching people both useful things about physics as well as not so useful things about haunted animatronic pizzeria restaurants. And so I think after doing that sort of education for people over the years and stuff, I'd love to be able to focus a little bit more on the little guy that's in my life, and I can teach him all those things.
You wouldn't cry?
Would I cry?
You wouldn't be sad? Just a little bit?
Oh, I mean, absolutely, I would be sad.
Oh, wrong answer. Boo, boo.
No, I would. I mean, Mark, I think you would be sad too, right? Like, for as much as this platform is frustrating, and how much of it is a grind and all of this stuff, like, it is a huge part of a huge chunk of my and your life. And so to say, like, you wouldn't at least be a little sad to see a part of what has made you disappear and die, and especially if YouTube itself disappeared and all the videos and all the work from a decade of my life suddenly goes away and I can't revisit. I that's what you were saying with Unas Anas, right? Was that you appreciate the things while they're here, but there is a sadness and a little bit of regret to see that sort of thing go away. I would be sad, but then you move on and you find the next thing in your life.
Yeah, I can't deny that there wouldn't be a hint of sadness. I like to say that would be like emotionally dead and ignorant of my own feelings. I would be very sad to see, and especially for all the other people that would be out there who would lost that's things that you were talking about. My personal feelings towards my videos aside, because I would not really miss them. But part of me would be outside of the sadness and obvious like melancholy behind it, I would be incredibly excited. And let me tell you why. Is not because of like ignoring the sadness that's there. It's suddenly this vacuum. I love change. That's me. A lot of people really hate change. I adore change. I'm an agent of change. I love doing anything that changes things up, even if some people could point to specific examples where I hold on to certain formats and whatever. I love this idea that the entire ecosystem of the internet, the pipeline of content that is the pillar and lifeblood of creativity and the livelihood of so many people suddenly gets upended. And the reason that's exciting for me is because that moment is the catalyst of the greatest creativity that would come out of the internet in like recent years. There would be suddenly a vacuum, a demand for content and creators that were just like suddenly ousted. Where would they go? How would it evolve when people would be forced to change? Oh man, I would be so excited to see what would come out of it, because I feel like it would just be like the most profoundly interesting few years afterwards as like things just rehash and stitched together. Me personally among them. I would be like in the mosh pit, throwing elbows, just like it would be the Wild West of content. And you don't think that would be just a little bit of exciting? You don't think it would just be a little cool?
I mean, it would be exciting, but where are you making that content? Like, and I think this is the thing, like not to overly challenge you or anything, but like, people can be creative all the time wherever. And that mosh pit is happening right now as you speak, Mark. The question is, where are those people getting seen? Because creative people, since the beginning of time, have always wanted to find a platform for their creativity, to find a place where their voice can be heard. And one of the things that I love about YouTube and I love about this platform is, in a lot of ways, it is a meritocracy, where you learn the platform and yeah, it's become less so over the years, and that's like a fine nuanced point, but like more so than, traditional media, television, movies, things like that, where you had to be in LA and you had to know the right people and you had to come from the right family or know the right, X, Y, and Z. Like, YouTube democratized entertainment in a lot of ways. And so, hey, if you are Kane Pixels and you have the back rooms and you're just a talented VFX artist, awesome. Someone on Reddit's going to pick that up. It's going to get signal boosted. You're going to grow a little bit. A content creator is going to react to it. We're going to do a theory about it, whatever. And bit by bit, you're going to grow that audience. And suddenly, you've succeeded in the mosh pit. You found your way. And, I still think that YouTube is, in a lot of ways, a place where that mosh pit happens. And it is a platform that formalizes it to some extent, but still incentivizes that creativity. Whereas I think if all of a sudden it goes away, now what are you left with? Sure, go for it.
No, this is exactly my point, because there is the mosh pit right now with the TikToks and Instagram. There's so many different ways that people monetize. In that aspect, you're right. It would create a big vacuum of established things. But how many people like you and me who have said to this question, yeah, I'd be fine, I could retire, but how many people are still like incredibly hungry for it? The thing that these other platforms don't realize is that YouTube acts as a nice sponge for creativity, and that the competition that exists on those platforms is dulled because of how established some routes are in YouTube. You don't just get new people coming in, you get old people that suddenly have to be like, oh God, I have to do something else, but they have the skills behind it to do it. They're not even gonna just make content, they're gonna make their own platforms with which to do it. Because how many YouTubers have you talked to that's like, man, if I made a new YouTube, I would make it so much better. And whether they're right or wrong,
right, sure.
For all of YouTube's flaws, I do like the platform. I still think it is, like what you said, it is one of the few places on the internet that has actively taken a role to try to encourage people to express their creativity and make a living out of it. That is rare, and that is not a guarantee in the world. As many other platforms try to be there, there's still like many good things about YouTube. Policies aside, it's still a good place to make stuff. But imagine, like, the rush is it's not even just a mosh pit anymore. It's like if when a business collapses like a big, huge business collapses in the world or gets absorbed, like it's just a frenzy entering into this sphere. It's like the competition is what drives it. And that's like what makes me excited. It's just like seeing what these people with all of their skill suddenly, you see a bunch of YouTubers have to like suddenly start doing TikToks. I think that's so funny because like so many of them are going to fall in their face, their skills don't work, but some of them are going to be so unbelievably good. Other TikTok people are just going to be like, what the hell is how I have to do that now? It's like it holds people to a higher standard, both like in all aspects, and that's what I find exciting about it.
I mean, anytime, like, here's the thing, anytime there is an opportunity for someone to be creative, like, I love creativity, and like I said, it's one of those things that I love about where I exist at this point, where I am surrounded by people who are also as passionate about their creative work and the stuff that they're putting out into the world as I am. And it is so refreshing and so awesome. And, being able to watch these creators, have a place to kind of express themselves. It's so cool.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. But that doomsday scenario won't happen. Like, YouTube's going to be around here for a while until it'll be a slow death, not a quick death. It's not going to get pulled the plug anytime soon.
What do you think comes next, though? Like, what is the next iteration of content, Mark?
Next iteration of content? AI-driven stuff, sadly. Maybe this is still way down the road. I think that there's still a long ways to go before it encroaches into the territory of, like, say, making its own videos and whatnot.
Sure.
But have you seen some of the recent advances in terms of AI image generation?
Yes, it's wild. We've actually wanted to do a series of videos across all the channels of AI writes a game theory, film theory, food theory.
Yeah.
We've cycled it through the AI. How many times? We ingested most of the episodes for all the different channels, and we got some okay results back. We weren't fully satisfied, so I think we're gonna run it through a couple more times. It's been a process that we've been doing for about the last 3 months or so. But yeah, it's wild, right? Same thing with the DALL-E stuff.
Oh my God,
the image creation. It's scary.
It's so scary because if you haven't been paying super attention to it, to the people listening out there, like, you may not realize just how quickly this has started to evolve. Midjourney is probably a popular one that many people know, DALL-E being the most well-known version. But Midjourney has been working under the hood and slowly making strides. In just 3 months, it went through 2 version updates. The 3rd version was released, and it increased the fidelity of their results tremendously. Like, it was stunning, the jump in quality. And then they released version 4 with the advent of, I think it's called static diffusion, and like a different method of image generation. You'd have to look into the papers to know the technical things. I do not. But the quality level is, it quickly became like, oh, that's fun. It makes kind of pretty pictures, but they're a little weird, to what the hell am I looking at? This is amazing. and it terrifies you. It really does kind of scare you. Not me. Again, I'm like, this is super cool. I think it'll be a tool for people to use. But it can be just like, wow. There was a case on Reddit that some people might have seen where someone entered their Midjourney creations. They printed it out, upscaled it, printed it on a big canvas, and entered it into an art competition. And they won first place.
Whoa, I did not see that. That's wild.
Yeah, AI generated art won first place in a real life art contest. And rightfully, people were very pissed, of course. And I think they're like, that's rightfully so. They should be pissed about that. There should be rules about no AI generated art in those competitions. But it made a point. It made a point that this art was good enough that other people objectively looked at it and stacked it up to things that humans made and said unanimously that it was better. And that is an interesting crux in the world of computer-generated content.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, that's a wild story. What was the image, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a space art theory. I could probably like see, and if you pull up
space theory. I'm so sorry.
No, when's space theory gonna happen?
I'm contractually obligated to say that anytime someone mentions the word theory. So
all right, apologies. Of course. But they could pull up the image. But it is like they had 3 different prints that they made of various, and admittedly, looking at them, they are really, really incredible works of art. But they were not made by a human hand, which does impact the art. It's no question that it is art because it is like the meaning behind it is there and the feelings that it evokes. Even if it's outrage, that's art to me. If it makes someone feel something, that's art. But just the idea that the computer generated thing could be made from a prompt and basically win out over pure human talent and pure human hard work. I don't know what the other members of the contest. Maybe they were crap. Maybe it was just a bunch of other garbage and trash, and like it was a washout because everyone else was bad. I'm not saying that it could beat everybody, but the fact that it could beat anybody is really, really surprising. What do you think?
Do you have a favorite piece of artwork, Mark, or do you have like a genre of art that you respond to? Because this summer I was fortunate enough to spend in London, so I spent 2 months there. Went to all different art museums, saw a lot, and the Tate Modern in London is so incredible, and it's full of so many. It's full of all this unusual modern artwork, and some of it I like, some of it I'm like, is that really art? But all of it makes me think and question. And I think that is what's so exciting about a lot of that. And so I'm curious, as someone who is very well versed in a lot of creative pursuits and endeavors and is constantly learning and looking to improve, like, what is there something that inspires you or something that you're like, I really respond to that emotionally?
Here's the thing, like, I have an appreciation for art, but I don't pursue it. Right.
Okay.
So I'm not going out to museums to look for inspiration or anything. I'll go to a museum and I'll be like you with the modern art. It'll be like some of it'll be like incredibly evocative, and I'll be like, I understand this completely. It really speaks to me, and I love the way it goes out there. And the others, I'm like, this is a cup on a stand, and this is clearly stupid. And I'll say as much, and I have no qualms with mincing words about it. But at the same time, like I never look really to pursue inspiration from places like that. So I couldn't really tell you like one thing of art that I love and really respond to and go back to. But what it is like I will find something, or like I'll come across something and it'll speak volumes to me, and it'll be like, this is wonderful, this is incredible, I'm so glad this happened upon my path, and it now impacts me in that way. But I can't do it. It's the same with music. I'll appreciate music when it comes by, and I'll be like, that was incredible, I'm so glad that I heard this, but I will never ever go out of my way to find music actively. And it's the same with art. I'm just so busy in what I do, and with what I have. Like it's the same with like having inspirations or heroes. I don't really have any inspirations or heroes. I'll come across something and I'll be like, that guy did something real good, or that girl did something real good, but that'll be the end of the story. I'll never pursue it deeper, and I don't look for that kind of stuff. Not saying it's better or worse. It's just like, that is just what it is.
Yeah, that's just who you are and how you operate. Absolutely.
Do you go to museums on occasion?
I do. I think it's, I don't know. I like just, I love learning, right? Like my father, when I was growing up, he's been hugely influential to me in a lot of ways, both, with the channel and with kind of my mentality as a human being. He he loved reading conspiracy theories, books about conspiracy theories, things like that when I was growing up. And he didn't necessarily ascribe to them, but he was interested in them, and he kept an open mind to like things that, you know, might be not offensive, but like other people would just dismiss as kind of silly. And he just loved to learn. And it's one of those things where he taught me at an early age. He's like, the best thing that you can be is a student of life, and never stop learning. And again, like that is how I've always operated. And so, you know, if I have the chance to go to an art museum and have an opinion or figure out what my opinion is on a certain artist or a certain work of art, or if there's an opportunity to, you know, go to a concert that might be outside of my wheelhouse and just try to kind of expose myself to it. I love that stuff. Because then I'm able to have an informed opinion rather than making a prejudgment off of it or whatever. Like if you can go to a party and have an interesting conversation about an experience that you've had, a concert you've been to, a show that you've seen, whatever, like life is all about accumulating interesting stories and opinions. And for me, that's kind of how I operate, and going to museums gives me a lot of that education.
Mm-hmm. I think I identify with a lot of that, and I'd say that like relatively we're fairly similar people, but I think with one key difference. Whereas you're like never stop learning, I'm never stop doing.
Interesting.
It's a similar philosophy, and like the difference could probably be lost to most people, but really like not that you don't do a whole hell of a lot, because you do. Don't get me wrong. But for me, it's like instead of like learning about what my opinion about something is or how I feel about something, I have to do it first to know how I actually feel about it. And I've always had that mentality. It's like I'd rather do something and then see how I feel about it after I'm done with it. Because I did that with music and like performing music. I for a very long time there, I pursued it extremely hard, and I practiced every day for about a year and a half straight, and I performed it on stage, and I did that. And then when I was done with it, I said, "Nah, I don't like it." And then I stopped doing it. But I had to know that before I could say anything about like the reality of it. And I'm not saying like my mentality is more valid than yours, because obviously I can only do so much. So I can't really, but I'm the same way in terms of learning. I always want to learn more things because I do want to be able to like back up my bullshit when something. However, I'm ignorant to a lot of things, and usually I just go like, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to say, I don't have an opinion. And that infuriates people a lot of times. Whenever someone asks me an opinion of something, I'm like, I don't have an opinion. I don't know anything about that. I say that a lot. And it's just like that infuriates people. People are like, how can you not have an opinion on something? I'm like, I just don't care about it. I haven't done anything about it. Therefore, it's nothing. It's blank to me.
Hey, good on you to recognize that. I think you know that's one of the tricks of where we are in the modern day, right? Where people don't have that sort of knowledge or that experience, but then they're still going to have an opinion about it because they just, you know, they think they know, or they're convinced that they know when in actuality they might not.
Yeah. My biggest fear is always standing on the peak of Mount Stupid, you know, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I it's great views from up there. Great views. But, you know, you just got to realize the valley of despair is immediately below you. So I usually am just like, I'll never even start that journey. If I know how long it takes, I shy away from doing something. But once I get into something, like I am a roller coaster on that curve, riding it the whole way through, and I love that. I just love being lost on it.
So, as someone who's done a lot of things, like what has stood out to you as things that have been like, yeah, that was, you know, I walked away from that, and that was for me, as opposed to, like you said, music, maybe not so much. I
mean, obviously, the generic umbrella of content creation, you know, in all of its aspects, is just like, that is so beautiful to me. Like the idea of individualized creation is probably the most profoundly moving thing of my life. And I think for a lot of people it is, and they don't even realize it. Like I think humanity in general is a much more creative species than we know, and it's been like squeezed out of us from an early age to not pursue our own ideas as if they are the most important thing in the world. And you know, yes, there are big problems out there, but to an individual level, what can you do besides what you want to do? So many people out there spend so much of their lives doing things that other people want to do, and they never look inward on themselves. And I think like the freedom that people experience in terms of YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and all these different ways of making quote unquote content online is something that does kind of lift the veil of people in terms of their own individuality. Is like, my ideas are good. The audience is a benefit for it, and the money that comes with it is a benefit. But the freedom and the realization that, like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want and it's mine and I can control it. That is for me the thing I love the most and walked away from. And I haven't walked away from it. I'm still clearly in the middle of it and drowning in the ocean of it. But yeah, I would say that. In smaller aspect, though, I would say the set life. I think that's been really, really fun for me. Making higher end productions, making stories, telling stories, really cohesive stories, and writing. God, I used to hate writing. I hate it. I hated writing. God, I hated writing. I couldn't stand writing. I fucking hated
So how did
writing.
you feel about writing?
I hated it. I hated it. But no, writing. I've learned to love writing, and I've learned to really embrace that process of just sitting in a quiet room and tapping away on a keyboard. That is very, very nice.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, because I felt the same way, right? Like when I was in school, growing up, and everyone was always like, oh, English, you're so good at it, this and that. But I always gravitated to math because the numbers had clean answers, and I liked how definitive it was, and there was no right or wrong. There was no subjectivity. I'm like, I like the precision of this. But everyone's always, but you're a good writer, this and that. And I just hated it. I thought it was, I couldn't stand it. It was so tedious and this and that. But, now at this point in my life, I'm tasked with writing at least 3 persuasive essays every single week, and using the opportunity to create my own worlds that are kind of like fan fictions off of other people's worlds, or doing research papers on things. Like, my job is as a writer every single week at this point, and I love it, and I enjoy that, and I think that's so creatively satisfying in a way that, had you told 13, 14, 15-year-old me, like, hey, this is what you're going to be doing for your life, like, I never would have believed it. Would have been like, oh, you're going to be miserable for so much of my life. Why would I ever do this to myself?
Yeah. Do you think that it's better because it's a piece of the pipeline to make content? Like, writing isn't the end goal. Writing is a step on the road to getting there. Do you think that has an impact on you?
I think that's definitely part of it. I think I've gravitated to stuff that I naturally enjoy writing. Like, writing is a means to an end of me learning new stuff and getting exposed to new things. So I think that's part of it too. But also, I don't know, when you're in school, right, you're having to be servant to so many masters, and there's so many competing interests and so many classes that you're jumping between and this and that. Whereas now, as an adult, I have, this is my focus. This is what I am expected to do. And sure, you're still juggling and you're still servant to so many masters, but I know at the end of the day, this is a constant in my life, and this is a point of stability. And this is a place where, like you said, I get to be quiet and to myself and focus on whatever fictional world or whatever blank page is in front of me, and it gives you that respite and a chance to really be one with yourself and your voice.
Do you know what's helped me a lot in terms of getting to that point?
What's that?
This game.
This game is so satisfying.
There's something about it. And I know that real life power washing is not nearly this satisfying. Having done it myself. It's very satisfying, but not to this level. And right. It's funny that we're playing this level, because if people watched my gameplay of this particular game, they would notice that this level made me angrier than any of them. It was just so frustrating. I wanted to be done with it. But in doing this, and I would equate it to writing, and I think a lot of people could understand it, is it's an arduous task. There's an enormous amount to do. There's so much, and even right now, we're only 62% of the way done.
Right, right? It's enormous. Yeah,
it's enormous. This is one of the biggest maps in the game. But now hitting it again.
Did you choose it so you could spend more time with me, Mark? That's sweet of you.
Yes, I actually did, 100%. Because I knew we've never actually had a chance to talk, and I knew we've never actually had a chance to really get to know each other, and I wanted to make sure that there was as much time as possible to talk about, because there's so much to freaking talk about, not in just YouTube, but just understanding your mind in terms of how you make things. But all the goodness aside of making things, the next part that I want to get into is the negatives of making things, and things you regret the most. Which I want to know, what video that's on your channel currently still up do you hate the most?
What video do I hate? So I've never. There's only one video that isn't up on the channel. I can tell you that for a fact. Like there are definitely videos that I don't like and I wish I could take down, but by my commitment to, hey, I produced this, I put it out into the world, like it's going to stay there. Like there are certain things where I'm like, you know what, it's there, it's part of the game theory canon. So the only one that was removed was a short mini theory on a scientific game called Fold It, in which you unfold proteins. And gamers, yeah, it's actually fascinating. It's kind of like a puzzle game, but it uses real world proteins, and gamers were able to solve something faster, something that science had been trying to do for years. I think it took science like 4 years of trying to like solve this protein, and gamers were able to do it in like a couple days. Which is just incredible because their minds work differently, right? And they see it as a puzzle and it's fun and it's a game, whereas the scientists are like, this is work. So that was always fascinating to me. But the reason it's off was because, it was a different era of YouTube, and I used my wife Steph in it, and at one point I'm like, oh, she's in a lab coat, and then I show her in a swimsuit, and it was a weird transition, and it was photoshopped and awkward, and she felt awkward. Like she was fine with it at the time, but then looking back, we're both like, yeah, it was probably not the best. So that was one where I've taken it down. So that's the only episode that doesn't exist online. The only time I've ever hidden or privated a video.
God, yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt. That just reminded me of this thing. You remember? Have you ever looked deep into Vsauce, Michael from Hey? Vsauce, Michael,
the old Vsauce videos are.
That was a real shock. Like, if no one knows, go to Vsauce and scroll. I'm sure they're still there. Go to his old videos. It was like ranking anime boobs or something like that.
What? It is. And then I think his very first video is him in like the first world of Super Mario, and him propelling himself over the green pipes using the power of farts, I believe is another one. Yeah, the Vsauce channel pivoted hard into the content that it does nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that's so funny because, like, I love that it's still there. I really do. I love that. It's such a good move, and I'm just so proud. I've never spoken with him, but I'm like, I admire that. That's a ballsy move, and I like that. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think he subscribes to probably the same thing that I do, which is like it's part of the creator journey, right? It's part of the history of this channel. It's it's maybe not the best, and shows kind of how far you've come as a creator. And I think that's important for people who are the next generation, or looking at kind of the history of where this whole thing has come from. So I like you said, I love the fact that those videos still exist. I think it's so funny, and I think it's always shocking when people first stumble across those and they're like, wait a minute, is this the guy who talks about like existential space and what happens if everyone jumped at the planet at the same time? It's like, yep.
I mean, hey, who doesn't like ranking anime boobs? I mean, that's pretty much, I think that's a common human trait.
Right? I mean, it's education. He should remaster that episode. Like modern Vsauce ranks anime boobs just as a throwback.
Yeah. Oh man, talking about remastering videos, I've thought about that a lot in terms of just, I have so many old videos that I've done way back when. I'm a different person, like both in terms of the biological sense of every 7 years you change out every atom in your body. I'm a different person than when I recorded a lot of those. But also just like from a creator standpoint, I am different. And the recent Dead Space remaster is like making me think about this. Because I'm going to play that when it comes out. And I thought, how is this different than me going today and just replaying the old Dead Space that I did before? Would that be any different? And it got me thinking, like, I could do that, because at this point I've almost entirely forgotten that game. Are there any like theories that you would ever revisit because you're like, I'm a different person, I learned so much more, but that universe is still compelling? Like Slender Man, I played that game recently. I'm like, this still scared me. What the hell? And I started thinking, what is the story behind this? Have you ever done a video on Slender Man? Like all these different things that I'm like, man, I would love to revisit these things, because it's not like they ever died. It's just people forgot about. Oh, there you are. I haven't actually seen you in the game.
Right, this whole time, just hanging out on the roof. Don't mind me.
Yeah.
No, it's funny that you bring up Slender Man. I mean, that was the decision that changed the course of the channel, right? Where Halloween what was it, 2014 or something like that? Halloween 2014, I put a Twitter post up, and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what we're doing for the Halloween theory on Game Theory. So here's your choice. You got the Slender Man thing. It's a little past its prime, but like we've never done it. You guys have requested a lot. Or there's this new game that I see a lot of people requesting called Five Nights at Freddy's. So which would you like to see done?
Oh
Slender,
man, you picked the right choice.
Yeah, the audience picked the right choice on that one.
Yeah,
And I mean, obviously the rest is history. There were 2,100 books in and whatever. But
oh my god.
But yeah, to this day I've never done Slender Man. Never touched it.
That would be such a fun throwback, because then you could get into all the Marble Hornets stuff, which I have only watched like the first video of, and there was 3 seasons I discovered recently. And there's
huge.
so much stuff. Like, people think that the Backrooms is extensive. It pales in comparison to like what was established in Slenderman, and that was like 2012 that started. But it's still just as rich. It's just like there were fewer people to latch onto it. And that's the craziest thing. More people latch onto it, but more people have forgotten. And then there was a crappy Slenderman movie that came out.
I was going to say, let's not forget that movie that really shook things up.
Yeah, man. The timeliness of Hollywood always coming in to save the day. Always topical.
Right? People still requesting the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and I'm like, are you sure you guys want it at this point? I mean,
I'm not going to be in it. They haven't called me.
They haven't called, right? What's up, man?
I don't know.
That just tells me that the movie isn't being filmed yet. Come on.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, it is. What would you think if, like, would you do Slender? Would you?
What? Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
As a personal request, like if you could, because it is kind of just a thing that people forgot. And when I played the game, it scared me. I was laughing at it because I was like, I opened it up like, oh, this old game. And then
so goofy, yeah.
I actually got scared, and I'm like, how is this? I've played this before, and like I've played so many horror games. How is this still scaring me? And I was like, maybe there's still something to this.
Yeah. No, I would absolutely do it as long as you promise that you ignore it like you ignore all the other episodes I dedicate to you.
How many episodes do you dedicate to me?
More than you know. More than
I know, apparently. No, man, I'm sorry. I'm not a every video watcher. I apologize.
No. You are totally fine.
But also, I don't check social media, so I never see if anyone else ever tags me. So I'm like, hey, Matt made this thing. I'm like, I don't know.
No, I'm just joking about that, but yeah, absolutely. Every year I go back and I'm like, should I do Slenderman? Should I do Slenderman? And there's usually some other more timely release or something, so whatever. But yeah, we've been really enjoying going back and looking at old game franchises and seeing kind of like untapped theory potential out there, or kind of like to break, like you said, on one hand it's nostalgic for people, on the other hand you're exposing it to a generation of viewers who missed it the first time. And I think that's one of the craziest things about being old man YouTube here, being a cool stepdad of YouTube.
Yeah, cool. I don't know.
Yeah, the cringy stepdad of YouTube. I simultaneously whipped and nay-nayed. Meme dad of YouTube over here. Is the fact that like when people stop me and they say, "Hey, you Matt Pat? I recognize your voice, whatever." Like, I grew up watching you. Like I don't watch your stuff anymore, but I grew up watching. It was everything that I watched in middle school, high school, and that's wild to me. Like, that we were people's childhoods, and to think that to a lot of people they're just hopping on this journey now, and so they weren't exposed to Slender Man the first time it came around. They didn't see all those kind of earth-shattering videos that really shaped the platform for what it is, because it is, we're 13, 14 years into YouTube at this point, and those games are over a decade old.
Yeah.
We've forgotten a lot of that stuff. It's new to a lot of people.
Yeah, it can be. And I think there's something good about that. It's kind of like the generation of what's in is like always cycles, right? Yeah. But I think the cycles accelerate over time as people like have to innovate, and they feel forced to innovate. So like these windows in which like fashion and music and styles all come back, it just like comes back quicker than ever before and always quicker. And it's kind of crazy. But would love a Slender thing, because the only time I ever learn about lore ever is when I watch one of your videos, because I don't ever pursue it. I literally, it's so weird. I'm like the face of Five Nights at Freddy's for a lot of people, and yet I haven't read a single book. I don't know what the hell's going on in those games. I don't even beat the hardest modes anymore. I can't. I just don't have the time or care enough to actually dedicate to it. And still, people will be like, yeah, you're the FNAF guy, and I'm like, no, clearly Daco or any of the other people are the FNAF guys. Like, clearly.
What was it? I think I remember we had just gotten done filming Heist, my scene in Heist, and FNAF VR had just launched, and I played a couple months ago, and I'm like, are you picking up that one? And you're like, I don't think so. I'm like, you probably should, because it's pretty fun, and you ended up picking it up, I think, when you were in the hotel room or whatever. But
yeah, I had to get one and set it up in this like little library room and play. Yeah, that was very nice.
But okay, I don't want to. The comments are going to get mad if I ignore your question. So videos that I would go back. So first off, remastering. We remastered the first ever episode of Game Theory a couple years ago as part of our 10-year anniversary on the platform. I'm like, hey, we've been here for 10 years. Obviously, a lot has changed. We've changed. We've grown. And so we remastered the first ever episode of Game Theory, and we did it in the 3 different editing and like visualization styles that we've had over the years. So that way, not only is it a retrospective as far as the script goes, I did some like director's commentary over top about how cringy and bad the script was at the time, and I'm like, I can't believe I said this. This is so stupid. But then also the editors had a really good time with it, because they edited in the 3 different styles of what we consider the 3 different eras of Game Theory, where we had the slideshow format, where it was just like ripping down a bunch of pictures and kind of having them lightly animate across the screen. The puppeteering element, where we did it was more like flash-based animations and things like that. And then we did the final version, where it's a bit more infographic-y, kind of like a hybrid of all the different styles. So
cool.
so we have remastered some, but yeah, like at some point, I would love to kind of go back and remaster all those old episodes, because to this day, some of those old ones are my all-time favorites, and it's just, I'd like time and people have seen it and whatever, but I'd love to kind of give them a new coat of paint, so that way, because you can't really rehash theories in a lot of cases, but to introduce them to a new generation, or give them the love that more modern theories get and the level of polish that more modern theories get now that we're better at what we do.
Mm-hmm. That would be really cool. I mean, I don't see why not. And the even better thing is, like, there's no one really to criticize, because the people that watch those are probably an entirely different audience from the people that watch you now. Just like everyone, very few people realize just how much turnover there is. There are people that have grown up, gotten married, had kids, and then their kids are suddenly watching my videos. There are new humans in this world that are fans of mine that didn't exist when I started. That is really weird to think about.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. How's it feel to be a formative figure in people's lives, in their like early lives?
It depends on what videos they're watching. It just depends.
What your impact on society has been.
Yeah, I have a wide breadth of types of content. Maybe my recent orc massage video not as formative.
I was going to say the honey pop playthrough maybe not beneficial to society
maybe
as
not
much.
Beneficial, maybe not, but but speaking of beneficial to society, I want to go back to something you mentioned almost casually, and I think actually the more I think about it, the more I'm interested in this, is you working at YouTube. Mm-hmm. Because you said that like as if it was just like a possibility, and I started thinking like, why isn't it a possibility? One of the things that I think is YouTube's biggest detractors, it's not so much like that YouTube is inherently evil. People need to realize this. They're not evil. It's not even one thing. It's thousands of people working in a building towards the common goal of getting their platform money. That is the almost like everyone's goal. They have also cultural goals of like do no evil, which is Google's overarching goal, which is questionable.
Well, actually, they've removed that from their motto. Unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, Mark, but they quietly let that one go away.
Of course they did. Of course. That's so beautiful.
It's pretty telling. Yeah.
But also, like, there's a few smaller goals besides making money, but as a company, it's making money. However, I think one of the things that YouTube could benefit from the most is literally hiring creators. They don't even have to be full-time, but like consulting creators and actually using their opinions and experiences to base policy on. And I think of all the people that I have met on YouTube, you would be at the top of my list in terms of people that I would want YouTube to actually hire on and be able to influence policy. Because you have a creative side that embraces the actual creativity on YouTube and understands and rolls with the punches and has been through a lot. And you have the technical know-how to actually understand how decisions impact creators and how they gamify winning the system and beating the system in a way that even YouTube doesn't realize. Because I doubt there's any one person there that understands the system as well as you or some of the people on this platform.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, what would it take for you to get a job at YouTube? Because it's really like, it's not so much as like you're bashing down their door to work there because you would be subservient to them. But what would it take for you to work there? And also, what circumstances would you do to leave what you do now, or at least partly remove yourself and then take up the cause for like championing rights of other, YouTubers and like making their lives better?
Sure. Well, I mean, I will say, and I don't know if these opportunities have been afforded to you at certain points, but I've always kind of made myself available to YouTube for product testing or giving like, creator roundtables of like, hey, we're thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. Like, what do you think? And, through things like that, I saw that they were planning on doing a second subscription button back before that was a thing. Which eventually evolved into the notification bell, right? And I'm like, that's confusing and stupid. They did not listen to me, obviously. They were really convinced about it, it's I guess it worked for them. They've kept it, this and that, so I have done at least as much as I can to. In whatever avenues and venues that I can to kind of like champion the good cause, beat the drum, whatever, for free on my own time when they decide to ask me stuff. So I'm working as much in that capacity as I can. As far as what it would take for me to do it, like I'd have to feel like my theorist journey was complete at that point, right? Like that I had done everything that I wanted to do and intended to do with Theorist and with the channel before I kind of moved on to the broader YouTube ecosystem. Because the thing is, there is power in the videos that we make, and every once in a while I'll hop on my little blue couch and I'll do a meta theory talking about the state of the union of YouTube. And I think those a lot of times are just as impactful to YouTube as if I had actually worked there, if not more so in a lot of cases, because now all of a sudden you're getting the feedback from an audience, you're getting like mainstream, to whatever extent it is, but like mainstream attention or conversation going. So sometimes it's funny to think, but us as creators doing videos on our own channels and via our own outlets on the platform sometimes can affect change even better than working internally. Yeah, I completely agree. Like recently I don't know how much change is being enacted right now, but I know that they are probably talking about it a lot with the new age restriction like problem that's been going on, and Corey X Kenshin making his video calling YouTube out for discriminatory practices and the kind of like double standards. And it is kind of one of those things where in a lot of aspects, I do feel like sometimes I am held as like this poster child for YouTube, and I don't like that because I criticize YouTube pretty much at every opportunity. But at the same time, I do go to bat for YouTube a lot because, again, I do believe in the platform, and I think like the greater good is that I'd rather there be a platform than not. And I don't trust TikTok has people's best interests at heart. I don't. If anyone actually thinks that TikTok has your best interest at heart as a creator, I mean, my goodness, oh no, you sweet summer child. No, I definitely think that YouTube sees what TikTok is doing with creator monetization, with their what is it, the creator fund, I think is what they call it, where it's a stagnant pool of money that they just say like, this is an appropriate amount to divvy up amongst our popular creators. and they see that, oh, we don't have to do an ad share. We just kind of have a pool of money set aside and we get to decide how much of that money gets shared instead of a percentage revenue. I am sure that YouTube is kicking themselves they're like, oh man, wish we could have done that one.
Yeah. So hopefully they don't take too many pages out of that particular book. Yeah. It's like, and this is what I was talking about with there's these Twitch streamers. This is old news by now, but when they were just like trying to challenge their copyright detection system by flagrantly playing whatever they wanted and playing copyright content, like just being like, you can't ban me, I'm too big. And I'm like, Amazon will literally shut Twitch down if you cause them too much problems. Like the option that YouTube took to create their copyright detection system was the better option. Yeah,
that is the best case scenario. Yeah,
literally the best case scenario. And they didn't have to do it. They could have just given up. YouTube had not made them money at any point, but they believed in it. They believed in it. And I'm like, yes, you have to, like, at some point just believe that the platform and what it stands for and the culture that it represents and the people that it's cultivating is worth it at some point. And I do think more than any other company out there, YouTube has done that. Does that mean I forgive them for everything? No. Does that mean they deserve to be forgiven for anything? No, it's a company. Come on. But there's also people in there that do legitimately care and do legitimately fight for the creators a lot. And it's like that cynicism. The cynicism is the death of any group, organization, platform, anything. When you get cynical that you don't have the ability to change something. It's not the arguments. It's not the like fight. Like that's not what does it. That's what's good and healthy. It's changed. It motivates it. But it's the cynicism like nothing can improve. I might as well give up. That's what kills things.
Right. And I think, a good point to illustrate exactly that is by the nature of my history in the space, consulting people, being analytically minded, things like that. I've gotten to talk to a lot of different creators from different platforms and hear their experiences. And you talk to the Viners, right? And some of the biggest Viners at the time, who are crushing it in that world right before the whole platform shut down. And they're like, yeah, Vine brought us all in to a room and asked like, hey, what should we do with this platform? Like what is going wrong? Like how do we improve it, this and that? And they brought all their top creators into the same space. There was all this creative brainstorming happening and nothing got done. Like they had a huge list of things and Vine decided to ignore it. Every single recommendation that all their like heaviest users and most popular people were offering, and none of it got implemented. And as a result, Vine then proceeded to disappear. And I think, like I make the joke about like the double subscription and this and that, and I've seen those sorts of things, but at least YouTube is having those conversations, and I've seen them change things based on the conversations that they're having with their creators sometimes, and so that is something, like you said, it's not going to be every time. Creators aren't going to win every time. There are other factors that need to be considered, but at the very least, they are willing to keep an open ear and be open to changes and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that, again, to YouTube's credit, they have enacted some change from people's suggestions. I have experienced it myself. I can't remember specifically what it is. It's not like groundbreaking things, but I've called YouTube out on things, and they have talked to me, and things have occurred from those conversations. I'm sure you have many examples that you don't need to list right now, but it's just like, it is an evolving thing, and the more people care about the platform, the more people fight for the platform and want it to be better and make it active and obvious that they want it to be better, the better it is. As much as they push shorts, and as much as I don't really like shorts, and I get it, whatever, it's fine. I'm not going to regularly make shorts, but it's like that. It's these things that they have to. I know they have to. There's some executive room and they're like, we need to compete with TikTok in this way. Do it better, because that's what Google does. They copy things, and that's fine. But there are ways to improve it, and it is still a fantastic place to. I think. I don't know if you agree with this, but I think YouTube is one of the best places on the internet, maybe the best place to have as a creative outlet for people that want to make video content specifically. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to deny because again, like just the sheer policy of, hey, we will share ad revenue. Like we are in this together. Our success is your success and your success is our success. Like I think that level of partnership is something that you will never see another platform really truly do in earnest. And like I said, the fact that TikTok has shown that, hey, creators are willing to shell out a bunch of content and do this for like whatever pool of money we deem, I think it shows that mentality that YouTube has of we share 55-45 of the ad split is a thing of the past. I don't think you will ever see another platform do anything like that again.
I would agree. Yeah, I agree. Which is kind of sad.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of sad. Anyway, I wanna. We've talked about YouTube so much, and there's only 15% left of this house, so it'll be done in a flash as things go by. To close this off, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Number one, but number two, what do you love to do in your spare time that has nothing to do with videos? Like literally, no games, no nothing. Like literally, what is your go-to outside of this?
Oh man,
like nightmare loop.
Spare time, Mark.
You see these big footprints? Did you do anything about did you talk about the big footprints?
Oh, we have talked about the big footprints.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Is there a video about that? Sorry, I just saw them and I remembered. I was like, I think in this particular video I called out for you to do something. I gotta watch that video.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say, Mark, so you know, you've been largely right about the lore of this game.
I've been right? No way.
Yeah, you were largely right. You were right that there is indeed a volcano that is erupting off in the distance, and this is all tied to actually Atlantis. There's all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah.
No way. God, I gotta watch that video now.
We actually have to we have to do an update video because we did it before they were really taking the lore seriously, and then between you calling out, oh, there's the volcano and how's everything getting so dirty and this must be all ash and whatever, and us doing a video kind of following that up and looking into the logistics of all that, the developers reached out to us and they're like, oh, well, we're taking it seriously now, so keep an eye out. And largely, you know, what you and we predicted has come to pass. So
I think that was one of those things where I do this for your theories a lot, or my fan series is like when they get a really good idea, I go, oh, so you found it out, have you? Oh, you deduced my puzzles. Great. And I'm secretly writing down all of these great golden ideas.
I do appreciate when I do episodes that you do happen to see and you text me and you're like, hey, Matt, good way to figure that one out. Or like, oh, I didn't realize that had lore. That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the other question, because we could talk about YouTube all day. But what do you do outside YouTube and games?
Yeah. So outside of all of this crazy stuff, I consume everything, and I mean that's partly doing work. So I love going to see movies. I love watching TV. You know, watching new relevant TV shows. Better Call Saul just finished. So like I like just again consuming a lot of different media to learn from it, to grow from it, maybe brainstorm ideas. But outside of that, I also I love being in nature. I love being active. I love swimming. I love rock climbing. I don't get to do it that much, but now that my son Ollie, he's 4 at this point, and he's old enough to go to places like trampoline parks, and which is awesome. And I'm working on getting good at doing flips and somersaults and back flips and front flips and stuff. And so I'm teaching myself trampolining, and he's old enough to be strapped into a harness and start climbing like those rock walls at places like that. And so he and I are, you know, doing rock climbing and stuff. So I love that sort of thing.
How old is your son?
He's 4.
4. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about.
It is. If it's crazy for you to think about, it's even wilder for me to think about, because I mean, everyone says like, oh, they grow up so fast, whatever, and you kind of look up and you're like, oh, this is an actual human being with its own thoughts and opinions and likes and dislikes, and when did that happen, and how did he get to be, you know, this way and have these tastes and interests? It's wild to see.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gotta be crazy. But I mean, that's great to hear. Like in my spare time, and this is like a kind of my detriment, and I am perpetually stuck in thinking about content creation.
Sure.
I actually don't escape the loop. I always think about what I'm making next. It's to the detriment of my like friendships and stuff. I don't hang out with people unless they're working. Case in point, the first time we're having a chance to sit down is for making a video.
Yeah.
Whereas at any point I could have like texted you and said like, hey, let's hang out. And I will do that after this. And I think we should definitely like hang out at some point. You should come over to my house and just like see the sunset from my back porch. That would be really nice.
That would be great. Are you, this is a question I've always meant to ask you is, can you get out and do things. Because here's the thing, right? I recognize that at this point, whenever I go out, I'm probably recognized about, at least once, if not 3 to 4 times, depending on where I'm going. And I'm a guy who is a floating image that kind of talks and gets animated around. It's a picture of me from like 7 years ago. Whereas you, I mean, your face is everywhere. Your channel is massive. Can you go, like, if it was like, hey, let's go to a trampoline park, like, are we renting out that trampoline park for the night so that way you get a night of rest, or are you able to kind of trampoline with the populace?
I mean, I just deal with it. I'm never going to rent out a place for myself, but yes, I do get recognized a lot. I'm not saying that like it's a problem, but the most recent example is just like yesterday I was going through the drive-through and one of the employees ran outside to say hi. Like it's lovely and it's an honor, but it does like detract from that sense of normality that's just like, I don't know why this is occurring. And that is like another part of content creation that, if anything, I think it's probably, it just makes me, I never understand why people chase fame. I never understand, never had. I'm honored by it. But it's like, I am the type of person, I like to go to a restaurant by myself. Or at least I used to. I can't do that anymore. The advent of masks has helped a lot. That kind of helped.
Right.
But some people snipe me from like across the hall, even in my mask. Like I'll have sunglasses and a mask on, and people are like, "Oh, Markiplier!" Usually, as soon as I open my mouth, people they hear one word and they're like, "Oh, Markiplier there!" So
it's always the voice. That's the thing I always hear. I thought I recognized you, but then I heard your voice ordering or whatever. Yep, that's always it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is one of those things. So, unfortunately, no. But again, it's just like a part of life now, and I would never bemoan it. It's an honor, and at the same time, it's like it's just something I deal with. It's part of the process. But then again, I hardly ever go outside, so it's like I don't have to deal with that much.
No, you're not much an outdoorsy person. I mean, you appreciate your sunset on your own balcony, so I appreciate that.
I do. I like nature. I do. But it's just like, because I am trapped in the cycle of content creation, I just love making it. I am addicted to it. I would say that it's a full-blown addiction at this point, and it'll probably eat me up until my dying day. But thankfully, Amy, my girlfriend, is here to make sure that I stay sane and grounded, and I take trips and I take breaks regularly, and I think about things that are outside of the next project that I'm working on. I do think that chase is addictive. I think there are many YouTubers you could probably think of that are addicted to the process of making things. Course. And I'm not one to call out, because I do the same thing, but at the same time, it's like, can be a problem when you detract everything, and I've tried to get better about it by balancing the human element of it, by not exploiting the people around me to try to like live my life where I have to make content all the time. Sometimes I just want to go out for a walk, and I think that's the biggest change in my life, is just being able to recognize that I can go out for a walk is very, very nice.
Yeah. And you mentioned this, but that's the other thing I would throw on kind of like the old hobbies list for me is travel. My wife, Steph, we have a goal to visit 100 countries in our lifetime.
Whoa, that's cool.
And so we're currently sitting at 27, 28. So we're doing pretty good. Obviously, the last couple of years have been tough for that. Both.
God, I'm so sorry. My first thought was like, literally, my brain was like, "Ooh, a travel channel would be so fun," and I had to go like, "No, not everything's content. No,
you're totally right though. Like I've thought about that at some point. I think that there's room for a cool travel channel that we could do. The problem with travel, I mean, here, if you want to get really nerdy with it, the problem with travel is very location specific, and so when people are looking for travel related content, they're looking for a specific country or a specific place, and so you have to be really smart about how you're balancing your programming to make sure that you're not falling out of people's algorithms. So I too, Mark, think about content a lot and definitely overthink. So you and I are in the same boat, and so I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Oh man, but I do wonder about that philosophy, because I never think about that. All I think of, like, and all I've ever done is like, if the content's good enough, people will come. That's how I've always operated, and so far it has worked for me. When you look at my channel, does it make you mad? Sometimes.
You know,
I put no thought into what I do. I don't really. And then suddenly I'll make that Pokemon video and like everyone will do it. And I'm like, I didn't know what happened. I don't know why my videos do well. I couldn't tell you the first thing. Other than that, I try to make them good sometimes. But I don't always even try to do that. Sometimes my videos are garbage and I know it and everyone knows it, but no one seems to do anything about it. No one calls me out on my shitty videos.
No, I like. Here's the thing. Does it make me mad? No. Am I jealous sometimes? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, if you're talking about like, you know, biggest regret or whatever. On one hand, I would say like, oh, I should have started a Let's Play channel instead of like a Let's Do Heavy Research channel. But then I think about it. I'm like, would I, you know, enjoy the content that I do as much as I do? Maybe not. I'm so happy with the stuff that we put out, and it's so creatively satisfying for me. So on one hand, it's like, oh, I wish I could do that. But on the other hand, it's like, well, no, but I really am happy with where we are. So, but yeah, to say that I'm, you know, not jealous of sometimes when you do a video you're doing like the 30-second like dunk on me because I did a crappy Pokemon and that one gets more views than my original video where I talk about how I made that Pokemon. Whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's no problem.
It's fine. We're all good.
It's like, but for me, it's like that was the only response I could make possibly. It's just a 30-second quick dismissal, and it
was great. I loved it. I thought
as
it was so
much
funny.
as I want to make an extended video because my real thought is like, of course, I want to make a video talking about like Matt. You seriously just put giant boobs on it and it'll be great. That's all you got. It's that simple, man. And yet I can't say that in my response video.
Of course,
no,
yeah.
I couldn't say that at all. No, I gotta be in the character of things, the zeitgeist of the moment.
Oh, the zeitgeist. There he is again.
Yeah, but no, it is one of those things where like I guess technically I do think about like the more technical aspects, but mine is always like the interaction. I always think of like, you know, improv exercise. I'm sure you've taken improv before as well.
Yes.
It's like, what is good for the bit? What's good for the joke? What's good for that? And that's where I lean in a lot on things as opposed to what's good for the algorithm. I don't really care what other people want. I care what I would want to happen in that moment is like, I would want me to be so dismissive of this, even if inside I'm like, just put tits, just put big boobs. Even though I want to say that, it's like, no, this is better for the moment. So I guess I do think strategically, but it's just like a not as analytical number focused strategically.
No, as a performer, as a performer who understands, you know, what the audience is, how the audience is going to react. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's why I loved about doing theater back when I was doing theater and I was directing shows. Right? Is I would always approach my shows from the perspective of the audience. And I like, what is the audience seeing and what do they expect to see in this moment? And do I want to give them that or do I want to give them something else? And that was kind of one of the weird quirks that I had as a director. And I totally see that. And I think, you know, looking at content in that way is very smart. So.
Oh, thank you very much. And I got to say, for those who don't know, Matthew Patrick here is an incredible actor and really incredible performance. Like the stuff you did with Mac on set, like was just like it was wonderful. The breakdown was just like so fun. It was just a shame like we couldn't put it all in. It was just like wonderful. And then like what you did with I call him the prospector. He's not the prospector.
The hermit. Yeah, the hermit.
Originally, it was just some old mining prospector. That was the original incarnation of that character. But just like it's really stuff. Have you ever thought about doing acting in like a bigger like movie or TV show or something like that?
I on one hand, it's funny that you bring that up because Steph and I have this conversation a lot where, like, again, I love to go see theater shows. I like to go, you know, to all these different things and watch and consume everything. And I lived and breathed theater, you know, for the longest time in my life. I fully anticipated making a career out of theater as my professional living from here till the end of days. And I go back to see theater, and on one hand, I'm like, oh, it'd be fun to go back and do that and live that fantasy life and stuff. But I go back and it feels so superficial and so dated as an art form because of the world we exist in now and this cool interactivity of content and the authenticity of the characters that we are and the personalities that we are online and stuff. And so I see it, and there's always an artifice in theater, but the artifice feels so much more pronounced in this era of digital content, I'm like, I don't know if I would like to do this. I think it would be fun for me, but would I ultimately be, and it would be fun to kind of revisit a past part of my life. And it's always fun to have a chance to memorize lines, do blocking. Like I love like you mentioned, how you love the production process of a movie, and of a video. I love the production process of theater. And I think it's magical and wonderful. And I love when the lights come up and the energy of an audience and this and that. There's nothing like it. But I also recognize that creatively, it doesn't resonate for me the way that it used to. And it feels very different as an art form at this point.
Yeah, there's what's fun and then there's what's fulfilling. And I think it's not touching. It would be fun. Like just like I said, I did a tour and it was fun, but doing it again would not be fulfilling. Like it was fulfilling to be able to go through that experience once, but if I did it again, it would ring hollow. Yeah. And like that feeling of hollowness is actually, I think, a good instinct, because not many people can even recognize this idea. Like what once was will not be. You know, it will not be the same if you relive something. And these memories, that was a big part of Unisonus. Is like reliving it is not the same as experiencing it when it was there. The content is what it is, and it's good. It's not the same as the overall experience.
Well, and honestly, that was one of the things that got me out of theater when I was kind of making that transition. Because again, like I fully anticipated being a theater professional, acting and directing, doing some lighting design, this and that. And then, I worked off Broadway for a bit. I toured around for a while as both an actor and director. I did a ton of shows. But what ultimately got me out of theater was two things. First off, it was the constant like living out of a suitcase and like there was no stability in it, and that was tough for me to handle. But also, I worked in New York at that time, and I saw what constituted a successful life in theater, and it was doing Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark 8 times every week, and you have to hit all the beats at exactly the right time. Otherwise, the orchestra is going to get paid overtime, and you're going to cost the show its budget. And and you lose, exactly to your point, you lose the spontaneity and the in the momentness that makes theater and live performance so exciting and so impactful, because everything has to be so regimented and robotic in order to kind of like meet your quota at the end of the week. It's a business, and seeing the reality of that was a real defining moment for me in my life, where I'm like, oh, that's a bummer, that's sad, I miss that. So
yeah, letting go of what once was, and it's just like it'll never be the same. Just like how when I was never the same after, I'm trying to think of a funny example. I was trying to make a joke to like really make light of this profound thing. I couldn't think of anything.
I'm like, he's reaching. He's gonna find it. He's gonna find it.
No, couldn't find it. No, you get to keep your meaning. I get to not make fun of it for one more moment. The only reason I was saying that is because we're at 2% away from being done, and this is the most arduous 2% where we have to hunt down all the stupid last pieces that are not cleaned yet. But we're closing up here, and the reason I bring up the acting thing is mostly just because if, say, someone that maybe you knew was making a show, like a TV show or something, like filming a pilot at some point.
Sure, yeah, of course,
in the very near future,
sure,
like let's say early next year,
would
you be available to be a part of it?
Oh, I'm absolutely, yes, 100%. Cool. Instant, especially if it was a director that I had known and worked with and whose work I had respected. Absolutely.
Okay. 100%. All right. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah. Just checking, just putting the feelers out, because you never know when opportunities might arise.
And that's exactly it, right? Like I think to what you were saying before, and I like we exist in a world where you less so, but for me, for sure, like the content that I'm kind of expected to produce on the channel is you can mix it up to only a certain amount, but at a certain point, you got to kind of deliver to the audience what they're hoping for, what they expect, or subvert it, but you can't do it that often. And so for me to have the opportunity to lose my mind or express that like unhinged character or what have you, I relish those opportunities to really ham it up and step outside of myself. It's great.
Yeah, man. And this is like kind of like my folly is because I operate on you energy. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I do. Elixion, I guess censor it out, make it family friendly.
No, it's fine.
I operate on you energy, and it's not so much that I want to like be a part of Hollywood in that traditional sphere. I just want to prove to them that I can do it better. I literally just want to say, hey, your ways are cool and you make cool shit sometimes. I can do that too. And just like that's how I've always been with anything I make. Half of what I make is just because I'm like trying to prove a point to someone. It's like a bet. Like it's a bet, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna fall through it. I'll do it. It was like my friends were telling me that like if I was part of Creator Clash 2, which have you ever thought about boxing? All the YouTubers are doing it.
Yeah, right. It's the popular thing to do these days. I have thought about it. Actually, I was asked to be a part of it, and I thought it was a joke. Like I didn't know how to respond initially when he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, like, have you ever thought about boxing? You want to box?" And I'm like, seriously? Like, I had no idea whether I was supposed to take it seriously or not. But I've thought about it. Here's the thing that I would do with it. I would want it to be. I would want to. Again, me being the guy that I am, I'm like, oh, let's make it theatrical. I want to subvert expectations. I want to get in the ring, throw a few punches, and then the lights go out. And when the lights come back up, the ring is full of dancers, and we all do like a dance together. And then there's a scripted dance sequence, and it's not at all what you would have expected, and it's crazy. Or maybe there's some lore component attached to it where, you know, the lights go out, punches are thrown, lights go out, and suddenly people are missing. Or the audience is gone, or something like that, and it's something crazy like that. And there's this wild, like, ooh, I wonder what happened. So it's not just, oh, we're getting in a ring and you know throwing fists at each other, but you're treating it, you know, like a theatrical show.
You want to do WWE?
Yeah, I would. I think I would
create a Rumble.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I'll contact iDubbbz. I'll be like, what about the Rumble?
I mean, honestly, I think it would do great. I think Logan Paul is doing WWE at the moment, or F,
is he?
F E.
I think WWF, World Wrestling Federation, but WWE is also a thing, aren't they? They're both World Wrestling something.
There's like the World Wildlife Foundation, so it must be WWE. I think.
No, there's WWF. It's World Wrestling Federation. I know for a fact that WWF is a thing. For
okay,
sure.
All right. Then yeah, he's doing that, and he's doing pretty well, and I think it went well. But at the same time,
what are
it'd
you
be like,
aiming for?
There's the upper underside, like it's hidden up. The upper underside, you know, the tippy toppy.
Like this thing up here.
Yeah, I got it. It glowed.
Okay.
All right. So what's left are window frames, and then little bits and bobs that are around here somewhere.
Sure. Sorry. Anyway, you were saying. So are you gonna punch people?
Oh no! This was I was asked to be with it as well. I was trying to make another point, but yeah, I will be part of the next one, but I won't be boxing. And the reason someone said this about my personality because I run on you energy is like I would be great at boxing simply for the fact that I would die standing before I fell down. And I'm like, I think that's a really nice compliment that someone gave me. I'm so boneheaded that I would rather die than give up. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet of you.
Yeah.
And at the same time, probably. But just because like, yeah, I hate being bad at something. So if I did decide to box, it would consume my life and I wouldn't be able to do anything else, and I just don't have time for that. Also, I don't want to be punched in the face. Why does everyone want to get punched in the face? I've been punched. Have you been punched in the face?
I have never been punched in the face, Mark.
I've been punched in the face. It sucks.
I'm
it's
sure.
It's not fun.
Absolutely.
You know what it feels like?
What's it feel like?
It feels like being punched in the face. That's what it feels like. Imagine what being punched in the face is like. That's what it feels like. It sucks. Why does everyone want to get punched in the face so badly? I don't understand.
I've been surprised by the fact that people have so enthusiastically and like without like hesitation, it seems like people being like, yeah, let's just do this, let's just go. And I think part of it is like curiosity, right? Exactly to your point, like what does being punched in the face look like? Can you hold up? under pressure like that. It gives you a good excuse to, to also get healthy, get in shape, things like that.
I do get that. Yeah, people do crave that change, and I do appreciate that. I am all about, like, yes, that change is important. You should pursue it, and yes, absolutely. And I think I'll be part of it in a way that is not necessarily doing the actual boxing of it, but I do appreciate boxing. Boxing is one of the few sports that I have watched throughout my life, and do appreciate. I love a boxing movie. I love the Rocky movies. I love Creed. I love all of them. They're very fun, very great movies. And it's a good sport and a good discipline. I just worry about people being hurt. That's really
absolutely. Yeah.
Like people get hurt.
Especially worry about myself being hurt.
Yeah. You want to protect that brain. You got a lot of thinking to do, a lot of theorizing.
That brainy head inside my skull parts.
Yeah. Well,
so okay. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, so not to go back to the content creation stuff, but I am curious. So you asked me earlier what happens if YouTube disappears. Mm-hmm. What and you said you would thrive in the mosh pit and stuff, but what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing I'm doing right now, which is I'm going to be pursuing
power washing.
Yeah, pretty much, probably. Maybe I'll get back into World of Warcraft. Who knows? Nah, I'd write a lot. I'd probably write a book, and then I would make a movie, which I'm already doing, and then I would make a TV show, which I'm already doing. I'm busy enough as it is that I could fill my time, no problem. Yeah, it's just like, for me, creativity extends so far beyond just making a YouTube video. But it is like what you said. There is something magic about what YouTube offers, the creativity that nowhere else does. And it is something to protect, and I will fight to protect it. And I think everyone should. And I think that anyone who doesn't fight to protect it doesn't actually care about it. And they should. They absolutely should.
That's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Where's his last goddamn
right? What are these? I was gonna say, well, all right, here we are.
I keep thinking that it's gonna end and be like, we'll have a nice little button, but no, it's just
no, it's never gonna happen. You are stuck here with me forever.
No, you're stuck here with me. I'm talking about like, give me the button to delete your channel. Come on, you can trust me with it. Come on.
The button.
Yeah. What if you delete your channel? What if you
free me of my torment?
Yeah. What if I freed you? Yeah.
At least give me a final upload, man. I gotta get a final theory.
No. Abrupt ending.
No, even Unis Honest got to say goodbye at the end, right?
Against my best wishes. No, just kidding. Where's this last thing?
Right?
I not find this?
An upper deck rim joint. What is an upper deck rim joint?
They're the things way up top. Like, you can't reach them, but I'm looking at all of them, and I don't see a single one that has any stuff. If you hit tab,
I'm there on an upper deck rim joist.
Do you see one that's not?
Okay. Yes, I got one. We got one left.
Where
those are the rings around the trees, Mark.
Oh, the tree rings.
Yeah, tree rings.
Oh, I wasn't looking at those. Okay, so I don't even see where you are anymore.
Here, then we have steps. You find the steps. I can find the joist.
Okay, steps is that spiral staircase. The steps here. I must have missed something on the other. Yeah, I missed something on the other side.
This is done here.
All right. Well, any last words before this video abruptly ends?
No, I got one more joist, Mark. Where's the last joist? Where is it?
I don't even see you anymore. Your character model disappeared. There you are. No, you're here.
He just gave up. He's like, I'm done. Where is this? Where's the joist?
I see it. I see it.
You
All
see
right. Well, say goodbye because it's what do you got to promote? What, your channel? Your channel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, check out Food Theory and keep an eye out for a new channel happening sometime before the end of the year. It'll be something theory. Yeah, we got a new one. No one has ever, to date, no one has predicted what it's going to be. So
I'm excited.
In my world, you can theorize and be a nerd about everything and overthink all your favorite things. And we found a new category that we're overthinking, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited about it.
All right, we'll go check that out and look forward to the future Slender Man episode.
Dedicated to Mark.
Dedicated to me, and I'll go catch up on some of those things that I need to watch. So dedicated to me.
I'll send you a greatest hits compilation, Mark. I promise.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Well, thank you for taking the time. I know this was a longer one, but I felt like it needed to be just on how much history there is on YouTube.
No, it was a pleasure. To this day, in all of my history of content creation, sitting down in front of the live audience and the people watching during the St. Jude stream was one of the most real and memorable moments to me. It was great. So, it was nice getting a chance to chat.
Oh, good. I barely remember anything. I was so tired.
I never know what Markiplier I'm going to get when I step into the room with you. So, it keeps me on my toes and it keeps things spicy and exciting.
Good. Well, thank you so much for your time. Everyone go check out MatPat. You've definitely seen one of his videos and you should definitely see more.
If not, you've seen my memes.
Yeah, definitely. The memes, always spicy, always beautiful. All right. Well, take care. And my next guest will be whoever I choose. Shut up.